And so a few thank yous, and before we start, first of all, I want to thank Rabbi Krohn for calling me for backup. I've definitely had Camp Stone withdrawal, and it was very exciting to be able to give this shiur. I want to thank my unnamed friend for not giving this shiur so that I could have the opportunity to give this shiur. And thank you to everyone that showed up. And also just a shout out to the current Rosh Beit Midrash at Camp Stone. Me and Ayala have been following, and Ravadi, Gadol Ador, we've been following all of the Camp Stone content, and we really we feel connected from afar. So Yishar Koach, and you guys are doing great things even in this more challenging time. Okay. So just to give you introduction to the shiur today, I want to give you like a 1 minute insight into what I've basically been doing for the past month. I started learning smicha at Yeshivat Har Etzion, and in smicha we use this book. That's basically all we read in Israel, the Shulchan Aruch. And at first I was very excited. I was like, oh, now I'm actually going to learn halacha. So I open up Even HaEzer, Chuppah and Kiddushin, and I read the Shulchan Aruch. I'm like, okay, this is what halacha should be. So the next thing that you know, you have a Ramah saying, actually, there's this opinion. And then you have the Pitchei Tshuva, who's one of the things we have to memorize for the test, who says there's actually these 6 other opinions. And the Chalkat Mechokek, who says there's 3 or 4 other opinions that you need to know. So instead of having one clear halacha, what you have is this like 20, 30 shitot, a huge machloket in every little line in this book. So that brought me back. Benny Ram, thank you for the shout out on Shevet Hineni. That brought me back to a shiur I gave a few years ago, I'm not gonna lie, on the topic of machloket, where this book, Shulchan Aruch, actually plays an essential piece. So before I start, I just wanted to say that every few minutes I'll take a break. This is my first Zoom shiur for you to ask questions or comment in. And you could also chat me on the chat thingy, and I'll try my best to answer. Okay, so without further ado, let's start on the topic of machloket and the Shulchan Aruch. At this point, this book has been accepted as part of the Jewish canon. But when it started, it was a very controversial book. And that controversy is what I want to talk about today. Part of that controversy, and the main part that I want to talk about today, is actually one of the main ideas of Shulchan Aruch was we're going to end all machloket, we're going to get rid of it, and I'm just going to give you the halacha. And that idea of one approach, one idea, instead of enabling machloket, was seen as very controversial. Even if you look at the first source, this is one of the most famous people that was against the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch was written by Rabbi Yosef Cairo in Spot. He was Sephardi. And the Yam Shel Shlomo is one of the Ashkenazi poskim in Poland. And we'll go back to exactly what he said, but you could even see the Yam Shel, from the beginning, that the Yam Shel Shlomo was very harif, that he was against the Shulchan Aruch. This book should not have been written. Aval asab pshara in source 1, binyane piskei halachot midato misprat haker. Right? He made compromises. I paraphrased it a little bit, but he made compromises in matters of deciding halacha, which even he would admit created incoherent halacha. The Yam Shel Shlomo says this book is not what we want. This is not how we should be poskening halacha. And that began, and that starts a whole interesting conversation about machloket. Is it good? Is it bad? And before we get into that, because it could be a little bit more complicated, I want to point you to our trusty machloket position chart, where I kind of outlined what I think are 3 basic questions on the topic of machloket. Number 1 is, and this question of is machloket good or bad? The first part of this conversation is the political question, right? Someone could say machloket is bad because it creates a lack of cohesion in Am Yisrael. If every person is following a different opinion, then what can we do as a people, right? There's no unity. side of that political situation, it could say, no, 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 no. Machloket is good, because if everyone could follow their own opinion, it enables autonomy, it enables independence. I could figure out what I properly think is the halacha. So that's one model of the machloket conversation. Another model of the machloket conversation is what I kind of grossly, vaguely title theological, right? Machloket is bad, because if there's a million opinions, we don't know what God wants, how God wants us to act. Moreover, we don't know what the Torah really is. There's 20 opinions, but what's the emet? So that would say machloket is bad theologically. A machloket being good theologically would say, no. The more opinions you have, the more opinions there are in Torah. In some ways, you could say that expands the palace of Torah. So that's a theological debate potentially. And the last debate, which relates but is not directly on the same model, of whether machloket is good or bad, is what I would call a practical or pragmatic debate. The question could be, is machloket bad? Because we shouldn't have machloket, right? Machloket can be overcome by good logic. There's a right answer. So if there's machloket, you're just not thinking hard enough. The other side will say, no, no, no. Machloket, I want to know if it's good on this condition, but machloket is fine because it's inevitable. There are no right answers. So there are machlokets, we figure it out, but it's not because people should be doing better or something like that. Okay. Are there any questions on these models of machloket before we get into the shiur? Basically, what I want to do for this shiur is try to see who are people in this discussion, what they align with in these models. Are there any questions, or should we go on? Wait a minute. It's speaky. Okay, yeah, so we'll go on. So to start this conversation, I want to start where we started with the Hakdama of the Shulchan Aruch. And this is a general plug. If you get anything from this year, to be that you shouldn't just open the books and look at the content. In many Sfarim, the Hakdamot are really valuable and get to you some essential hashkafic topics. And if you want a list of good Hakdamot to read, I could send you like 5 or 6 of my favorite after this year. Okay, so in source number 2, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Rav Yosef Kaira writes, Begola halachnu bekama sarot tzurot tukufot b'tzarot zolazo baru alenu aki nikayem banu avonotenu v'avda chachma begomer. Wait, what happened? We were in Galus, and Galus is really hard. And what happened because we were in Galus? Avda chachmatenu, we lost our wisdom. Vazlat yada Torah v'lomdea. And we lost the strength of what the Torah could be. Kilona set the Torah, kebet Torot, ke Torah ein mispar lisibat rov hasparim. The Torah did not just become 2 Torahs, a citation of a Gemara, but the Torah became 1,000 Torahs. What happened is, we have all these halachic sefers. The people in Poland have one halacha sefer. The people in Tzfat have another halacha sefer. The people throughout the world go disperse the Jews. And now we have this problem. Not necessarily that one person is more right than the other, but we have a million Torah. How can we practice Judaism? How can we create a unified nation if we have not one Torah, not 2 Torah, but Torah in mispar l'sibat ro? So that's the Shulchan Aruch's problem. And that's a project he's trying to fix in this book that he writes. V'ala b'dati, and this is his solution. He says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to solve this. Shachar kol advarim, efsok. Okay, I know I'm Barinholtz. Allah b'dvarim, shachar kol advarim, efsok halacha v'achriya ben asfarot, ki zehu hatachlit. Liot lanu Torah echad u'mishpat echad. Wait, what's the essence? What's our goal? For there to be one Torah. So what am I going to do? I'm going to paskin what halacha should be. But, and this is where it gets a little complicated, and why our model, I think, might be important. There's a caveat that complicates the situation. Ve'izu asher yimal'u libi lachnis rosho ben ha'arim harei el lachriya b'neihem al pitanot v'rayot listor mash bereiruhem or lachriya b'mash lo hechriyuhem. He says, good, I want to paskin halacha. I want to tell you what the right halacha is, so there should be one Torah. But I have this issue. good, we should have one Torah, but who lived that will be haughty enough to place himself between the mountains of God? The other Talmidei Chachamim. I, Rabbi Cairo, even though I wrote the Beit Yosef and so much of what we're in debt to today, I'm a lowly person in compared to the generations before me, and compared to Rashi, and compared to Tosfot, and they were debating. So how could I decide between Rambam, Rosh, the Rif, what halacha should be? I'm a no one. How could I decide over that? So what's his solution? The little malachuti, as we would say in Israel. It's not so much the logic of it, but it's practical. We don't have enough wisdom. So what am I going to do? לכם הסכמתי בדעתי, להיות שלושת עמודי ההוראה אשר הבית בית ישראל נשען עליהם בהוראותיהם, הלוא הם העריף והרמב"ם והראש, כי לדעת אשר יתורו בו, כאן יפסול הלכה. Wait, what am I going to do? There's three major guys. And I don't care, there's a lot of academic scholarship and probably Rabbanim also that discuss whether he actually did this, but for the purpose of the model that we're trying to set in this year, let's say he holds to what he's saying here. I'm not going to actually decide halacha by my logic. We have three people, the Rosh, the Rif, and the Rambam. And simply, I'm going to go by majority rules. Wherever two or three of them say two of them say one thing, and one person says another thing, that's what I'm going to say is halacha. And just to go back to the Yam Shel Shlomo in source number 1, the Yam Shel Shlomo, this is what in this critique, he gives like 20 critiques, but for the purpose of this year, I'll just do this one. This is one of the things that the Yam Shel Shlomo finds most problematic. Right? He did compromises in halacha. Right? He didn't think for himself what halacha should be. He just made a compromise. Okay, it could be that there's a contradiction between what the two of them said in one case, let's say in one sugya about a chuppah, and what he says in halacha in the next sugya about the chuppah. But it doesn't matter because I am not going to be the person that's actually paskening halacha because I am not capable of that. I can't go against the rabbis that were before me. So what am I going to do? I am going to just decide by majority rules. And the Yam Shel Shlomo says, what are you doing? Why are you making these compromises? And he goes on to say that, I took this part out, but he goes on to say that clearly the Shulchan Aruch didn't do enough iyum when he was learning, right? He didn't go to the sugyas K'mo Shematzvik, he stopped at this compromise. So if anyone wants to pipe in, now I'll challenge you guys to say, in terms of this chart, between the political, the theological, and the practical, where do we think the Shulchan Aruch stands? Does anyone have an idea? If not, I'll give you guys like a minute to think it over. You could pipe in. If not, then I'll give what I think. All right.
To me, it seems like he thinks that it's bad to not have cohesion. Like he wants to basically unify everything and have everyone follow the same set of logic. And he acknowledges that there are multiple opinions, but he wants everyone, like majority rules, to follow the majority.
I think you hit it right, right on the head, Noah. Basically the idea, right? What's he worried about? That there's more than one Torah in Israel. I just want there to be a Torah echad in Israel, right? So in terms of the political conversation, he says machloket is bad because there's a lack of cohesion. I need cohesion. In terms of the practice, I would also put him, he doesn't really comment on the theological discussion, but in terms of the practical, pragmatic, I don't think he would say this is necessarily fortunate, but I think I would also put him in saying machloket is inevitable, right? I can't decide against these people before me. So what can I do? I could just do this political move to end machloket. Okay. And we already saw that the Yam Shel Shlomo doesn't like this. But a contemporary of the Yam Shel Shlomo, and one of my favorite sources in the Shiur, source number 4, the Maharal Prague, his brother or brother-in-law or B'Tzalel also wrote a whole book basically against the Shulchan Aruch. But I think in this line, I think he really gets to the opposite of that discussion. What does he say? He starts criticizing the Shulchan Aruch And you could see the same criticism being given by people in our generation to similar entities. What's he criticizing? He's saying there's these people that have these halacha books, and we started poskening halacha by the halacha books. You know what? The people that actually wrote the halacha books, the Ritz, the Rambam, the Rush, at least the Maral Prague claims, I don't know if this is true, ואילו ידוע מחברים, כי החברים הם יהיו גורמים שיהיו עוזבים את התלמוד לגמרי, ויהיו פוסקים מתוך חברים, לא יהיו מחברים אותם, right? If those people knew that you were just taking their halacha books, like a Pnei halacha, and deciding the halacha from there, they would have never written their books, right? That wasn't the point. Because what's the real ideal? כי יותר ראוי ויותר נכון, יהיה פסוק פוסק מתוך התלמוד, ואף כי יש לחוש שלא ילך בדרך האמת, ולא יפסוק כדין לאמיתו, שתהיה ההוראה לפי אמת. מכל מקום, אין לחכם רק מה שהשכל שלו נותן ומבין מתוך התלמוד. More important, he says, than getting the right halacha from the Talmud, even he says, if you're really worried you're going to get wrong, שלא ילך בדרך האמת, ולא יפסוק כדין לאמיתו, you're going to get the halacha wrong, he says, it doesn't matter. מכל מקום, what's ideal? That any person who's a chacham, he does a little caveat, should do ma she'asechel shelo noten u'mivin mitoch ha-Talmud. He should do what he, according to his own logic, thinks is the proper approach from the Talmud. V'kasher tfunato v'chachmato titeh oto kol zeh, ahuv al Shem, even though it's tfunato, chachmato, wherever it leads him, ahuv al Hashem yitbarach. It's loved by Hashem, kasher moreh mipi ma she'mitchayev min hasichla. It's loved by Hashem because he's doing it according to his own logic. He's doing it according to what he thinks is right. And this is Netiva Torah, the Maral Prague's main objection to the Shulchan Aruch. He says, good, we have all these smart people, but what should you really be doing? You should be looking at the Talmud, and you should be practicing halacha according to what you think the Talmud ought to indicate. So putting him in this, yes, Shira?
Issue of people doing totally different things, like specifically for, let's say, kosher, if people are just doing different things, then it can create a cultural issue of like, oh, I don't want to eat at your house anymore, or if we're not all doing the same things, it could create issues where that's a whole thing we were saying political, like cohesion is important.
Right. So I would say, I think Shira is hitting it right on the mark. I think if you look at what the Netiva Olam is saying here, he seems to be disregarding that political value of, let's say, cohesion, of everyone keeping the same kashrut, like Shira was saying, and instead saying, you know what we should do? I value autonomy. Everyone should use their own seichel. That's how the Torah is meant to be, right? I value the fact that everyone should be able to do what they think is right, over kind of like mushing everyone together and forcing them and constraining them to follow the same laws of kashrut. I think Shira asks a very good question, also for our time period. When you have something like Am Yisrael, could you really practice something like the Maral Prague seems to be preaching over here? When you need like something unified for the nation. Okay, and just to show that the Yam Shel Shlomo is on the same page, the Yam Shel Shlomo is more complicated than this, but one little part of it, he says, right? When I'm reading my book of halacha, I'm not going to go back to all these different Rishonim and figure out what they said. I'm going to take my Talmud, learn it well, and figure out what I think is halacha. And that's the way I'm going to machriya what halacha is, say what halacha is. So going back to our position chart, I think if talking in terms of the political conversation, I think it's very clear, as Shira pointed out. We go to the next page, that the Netiva Torah and the Maral and the Yam Shel Shlomo believe that machloket is good because of autonomy, right? I understand you, Shulchan Aruch, and talking about cohesion, but I disagree. It should go according to your own seichel, and that's more important. I think coupling this idea If you say everyone should do their own seichel and that's loved by Kadosh Baruch Hu, that seems to indicate also in terms of the idea of theologically whether machloket is good or bad. That's expansion of the palace of Torah. It's great. Hashem loves your new opinions. Hashem loves what you're trying to bring to Am Yisrael. Okay. Any questions until this point?
Yeah.
Nathanael, go for it.
So if we were talking about the idea that you're supposed to look at it at yourself and study, how do you look at that based on tradition? As in, on one hand, everyone's doing something different, but not because of chokhmah, not because we looked at it, but because, you know, my father did it and your father did something else. So you have autonomy, but not from chokhmah. So like, how does that connect?
I think that's a really good point to make. And I think I left out that part of this conversation, but to try to make it a little less complicated. But I think you're right that custom also plays. The Maral Miprag is talking about seichel, your seichel anoshi. But we'll see other people, and especially later on, the famous discussion between the Mishnah Brura and the Aruch HaShulchan, where we see custom also becoming very important. If my father did it, and his father did it, and his grandfather did it, maybe that's how we should pass in halacha. But that's a slightly different conversation, not about whether halacha is good, machloka is good or bad. But if I want to say that I should be able to pass in halacha to choose what's right, what are the tools I use to choose what's right? And if you want, I could send you an article, a very famous article that deals with that conversation after. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Who do I got?
No. So I have two questions on the Yom Shel Shlomo.
Who's talking right now? Is Judah?
That's Noam Barinholtz.
Oh, Noam. Okay.
Yeah. So how can the Shulchan Aruch be self-contradictory if he's just basing his opinions based off of like Rambam and Rif and Rush? Wouldn't they have to contradict themselves also for that to work?
So I could say this is a situation I could create. It's unclear if the Shulchan Aruch actually does this, but let's say the Rambam and the Rif paskin in one situation, and they had one opinion, and then for a slightly different reason, a slightly different logic, the Rif and the Rush had a different opinion in a different place. Meaning, you could have, to say, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but you could have situations where you say this is halacha for one logic, and the Rambam says halacha is like this for one logic, and the Rosh says halacha is like this for a logic B. So what the Shulchan Aruch isn't doing, though, is he's not tracing the background, what's behind those logics, right? Why did one guy choose logic A, and why did one guy choose logic B? And because of that, there may be contradictions, because he really just cares, according to what he says in the text, about what do I think, what do they say is halacha, not the why. I guess that's the best answer I could say. If you don't look at the why and you just say, you just are tallying up, what does this person say is halacha here? What does this person say is halacha there? You may get the contradiction. I want to go on. I think you're right. That's the most complicated thing I've said so far. Asher Chrome gave me a shout out in a WhatsApp group. And then I will go on. And if you want to talk about that afterwards, Noam, I could talk about it a little bit more. Okay, so I think let's move to the next, any other questions before we move to the second half of this year?
I have a question.
You have a question?
No, Vashin.
Okay, go for it, Noah.
It seems like Yom Shel Shlomo is almost implying that Shulchan Aruch like isn't using his brain. I know not to that extent, but he's saying like you're not thinking for yourself. But first of all, I doubt that that's true. And second of all, are there any instances where Shulchan Aruch breaks his own majority rule and uses his own brain, which would imply that he's using his whole brain the entire time?
Yeah, I think there are instances of that. I can't cite any off the top of my head right now because I'm a little rusty in giving this share. So I think you're right that sometimes we have to, what I would say is sometimes someone paints a model in their conversation, but they don't necessarily want in practice live up to that model or want to live up to that model. And that might be something that the Shulchan Aruch does. Does that
Well,
answer
I'm
your
saying
question?
the fact that the
And then the
Shulchan
Yam Shlomo
Aruch,
is being Harif, but people are Harif. Like, I don't think we have to take, I think we could take, and I'm making the Yam Shlomo also slightly more Harif than he is, not much more.
okay. Yeah, I'm just saying
Um,
like the fact that Shulchan Aruch does decide things against whatever his model is, like shows that he is consciously thinking, what should the halacha be here? Not just like blindly compiling a search of the 2-on-1 every time or something.
Right. I would say, though, if you look at contemporary halacha, there's other books that seem to be doing that. So it's
Okay.
not that model, even if you don't want to put in the Shulchan Aruch, it's a model that very much exists. Okay. And I'll take your point. Well done. Okay. To fill out this chart, though, I want to look at one other book that the Yam Shlomo has issues with, and it's one of the most, if you're going to talk about the second most famous halacha book in Yahadut, it's probably this one. It's the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam. And hopefully that we could use to help us fill out the rest of our chart. Okay. So we're going to look at the Hakdama of the Mishnah Torah. I put out bits and pieces of this, and I'm going to tell you already as a caveat, this is a general model, but the Mishnah Torah is very nuanced. And to go through exactly what his model is would be an entirely different shiur. But the basic idea of the model and how it relates to this machloket is what I want to present right now. Okay. So basically what I'm saying to you is you should read the Akdama of the Yam Shlomo, you should read the Akdama of the Shulchan Aruch if you're really interested. You can read the Akdama of the Mishnah Torah. And if you want some secondary literature, whether it be YouTube recordings, Chronim, or I took a class in the Mishnah Torah this year, I could send you all of that. Okay. So the Hakdama to the Mishnah Torah. So we're now in source number 6. It's so fun I could share. Hamitzvah she pirush Torah lo katva. He says, he starts with, there's a revelation, the Rambam says, and this is Hakdama to his book, the Mishnah Torah. He starts with, and he's going to justify why he's writing this book. He says, Hamitzvah she pirush Torah. There's a Torah that was revelation, Torah shevichtav, and then there's Torah sheba'al peh, which is the mitzvah. That's the explanation of the Torah, and that was not written. Af al pi shelo nichtava Torah sheba'al peh, limda Moshe Rabbeinu kula bebeit dino l'shivim zkenim. Even though it wasn't written, the entirety of the Torah sheba'al peh was taught to Moshe. It was taught by Moshe Rabbeinu to the Beit Din of Shivim Zkenim. Okay, so what does this sound like? To me, it sounds like if we're talking about Torah sheba'al peh, is it a lot of different opinions? No, it sounds like Lamda Moshe Rabbeinu Kula bebeit dino l'shivim zkenim. The entire Torah sheba'al peh was taught to Moshe Rabbeinu, and was taught by Moshe Rabbeinu the Beit Din in the Shivim Zkenim. If you look at the Rambam, Mishnah Torah Hilchot Mamrim, which I didn't put in this discussion, but I see we have a little bit more time. He backs that up, where he says, when the time that the Sanhedrin existed, there was no machloket in Israel. It just didn't exist. There was no machloket in Eretz Yisrael. And he goes on, and I think one of the more emphatic places where Bolet, that he shows this, is when he discusses what the Talmud is. And source number 7. Shnei HaTalmudim, Pirush Divrei HaMishnah U'V'yir Am Kotea. What is Talmud? This mess of different opinions. This Amor says this one is contradicted by this one, and this guy says another thing. It's a pirush. It's an explanation. And he goes on to say other things that weren't part of the original Torah, but were accepted by everyone as a Torah. All these Gemara type of books that were explaining the Mishnah, all of them make it abundantly clear what's asur and what's permitted, what's tameh, hatameh, v'atahor, achaya, v'apatur, akasher, v'apasil, k'mo she'etiku ish mipi Moshe mitzvinai. The Talmud, this huge book of discussions that looks like a million debates confined into these, I don't know how many masechta, I can't think off the top of my head, right? In one page of Beitza, you may have 6 or 7 opinions. He says, no, you get it all wrong. If you really understand the Talmud and what it is, it tells you exactly what the halacha is. It's a Pirush on the Mishnah, and it tells you this is halacha. The Talmud, this whole world, there's one opinion, and we know it. And this isn't a crazy idea. There's a lot of people that think that there's kilu klalim, the rules of the Gemara, and if you understand the rules, you could always figure out what it's halacha. It might be poorly edited, but it's one book with one opinion. So what we see so far right now is a few places where the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah seems to say the Torah is one thing. Torah Sheba'al Peh is not complicated. You really get it. It might be complicated, but if you really get it, it's one crystal clear idea that you can ascertain, that you can understand. What does he say then? He says, "Shnei Talmidim hu perush divrei HaMishnah u'biyiram korotea dvarim shenitchatshu b'chol beis din me'abeinu." Oh, we read that already. Sorry. Now we're going to get to the heart of the matter. This is the most famous part of the Mishnah Torah, the Dhamma of the Mishnah Torah. I don't know about the Mishnah Torah, and he's going to explain why he wrote his book, and it's going to work really well with this one Torah idea. Keep in mind, interesting, like Shulchan Aruch, if you know the history of the two people, I'm writing my book because we're in a difficult time. Both of them wrote their books right after significant persecution. It's interesting to think, just as an aside, how halacha changes in radical times. I think that's somehow related to Tuchni. Rosh Beit Midrash, you could correct me if I'm wrong. But they've decided to do these evolutions in halacha when there's radical times. I just wanted to keep that in there, to say that. And what happens because of this? We used to have these beautiful explanations and chuvos, halachos, that the Gaonim compile. And everything was explained. But we're in difficult times and we don't understand it anymore. Lo-koshaken, even kal v'chomer Talmud atzmo. Right, this book is so complicated. No one knows what halacha is. Habavli, Rishalmi, no one knows. Shem tzichin, but what do they need? If you actually want to get it right, and tzichin dat rechava, neshvesh chachman, it's matarov. You need a lot of time to be able to learn, and you also need to be a real Talmud chacham. And only then can you get at what the Talmud, the clear halacha that the Talmud is indicating. And therefore he says, what did he say? Umitnei zen yi'arti chitanai, girded my loins. Don't exactly know what that means, but everyone says it. Ani Moshe Berabi Maimon Asfardi. I Rambam. What am I going to do? Ra'iti lechaver dvarim amitvarim mikol elu achibarim. I'm going to give you. Okay, he says. What do you need to understand the one clear halacha from the Talmud? You need someone who's a real Talmud Chacham, who's really able to get to the emes. And what can I do? Rambam, I could do that. Ra'iti lechaver dvarim amitvarim mikol elu achibarav. And maybe he's right. Right? I'm going to tell you what's asr, what's not asr, what's tameh, what's tahor in Shar Dinei Torah. And this is, I think, underratedly, I think the most powerful words in this Hakdama. Torah Sheba'al Peh, kulas dura b'fi hakol, v'lo kusha v'lo pro. Right? I'm going to give you this Torah Sheba'al Peh, and you think it's all this mess of a million opinions? No, it's kulas dura. It's all explained, no questions asked. Al pi mishpat asher ba'er mikol elu achibarim, and he connects it right from Vanim saying Miyamot Rabbeinu Hakadosh Arakshav. He connects it to the Mishnah at least, pretty far back of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and basically is saying what I am telling you is the one clear, crystal clear Torah. If you understand the Torah, k'mo shetzarich, you'll get to what I'm saying. Lefichach karati shem chibur zeh Mishnah Torah. And this is the most famous lines. Why am I calling this a Mishnah Torah, the second to the Torah? But first you read the Torah Shebechtav, you get what you need to get there. Right? And if you read this, you're going to know all of Torah Sheba'al Peh Kula. Okay, the Seder. So what we see in the Rambam, I think I want to go a little quicker to make sure we have time to finish everything. In our Machloket position chart, if I was to go on the two things that I think are most important for the Rambam, I would go to the theological and the pragmatic, right? There's the ignorance of how God wants to act, right? There's a fracturing of the Torah. We don't understand what's right. This is terrible. There's an emet, there's a Torah we got from Moshe Rabbeinu, and now we don't get it. And that's horrible. And in terms of how to solve that problem, unlike the Shulchan Aruch who says, can't figure it out, this is beyond me. Machloket is inevitable. There are no right answers of it put here. He says machloket can be overcome by good logic. There is one right answer, as the famous philosopher Dworkin would say. Okay. Beseder. So just to fill out this chart before we ask any other questions, I'm going to give you my second favorite source over here, which is the Yam Shel Shlomo and Chulin, where he also, in Bava Kama, the Marshal, where he also says the Rambam made some mistake. And he says, "B'ma shechodshu v'osifru b'kablatam b'torah sheba'al peh alechem mishina kulam." Okay, let's see here. I'm right over here. So he's talking about all the debates and all the machlokets in the Torah, and he says, "Don't worry, kulam natnu meroach echad." All of these opinions were all given to one person. Ushalo litmoa, and don't be astonished. All the multiple opinions. Right? Don't be astonished by it. I'm skipping a little bit ahead. Kulam divrei Elokim chayim. Kibel kol chad mipi hagvura. Right? Everything, all these different opinions, don't worry. They're all divrei Elokim chayim. They're part of the living Torah. And this is, I think, a really cool line. And they're mipi Moshe. These matters are from Moshe's mouth, even though it's impossible for Moshe to have said them. Because it's impossible for Moshe to have contradicted himself. So what do we see here? We see that Moshe, the Rambam, the Yam Shel Shlomo is saying, right? All those different opinions, even though it's impossible for them to give them by Moshe, because they're contradicting each other, don't think that they're not Torah, they are Torah. Unlike the Rambam, who says there's one clear opinion, he says all these machlokot, they're all part of the Torah. And I think one of the most powerful lines, and for someone that loves learning Gemara, I found this very moving, is when he talks about the Gemara. He's talking about the Gemara, and he says, don't worry about the Rov Arichot of Pilpul v'Omek Shelo. Kodem maskana deshmata v'siyuma. Oh, sorry, I cut it off a little bit. But what's he basically saying here, and I guess look at the Yam Shel Shlomo's Akdama for better understanding, is he says, Kodem maskana deshmata v'siyuma. When was the Gemara stopped and canonized? Before the machlokets were addressed, before we were told who halacha was. In essence, what is a Gemara? Unlike the Rambam, who says it's one perush, it's one explanation, it's true, it's the emes, it's one idea. The Yam Shel Shlomo says no, it's canonized machloket. The beauty of the Gemara, and that's why we paskin from the Gemara, is because it enabled the multiple opinions that are a part of Torah Sheba'al Peh to be a part of our canon, to be a part of our text. If it was just one little bit of Torah, one opinion, one halacha, you'd be missing so much of the multiple opinions that are all, as we just saw in the Yam Shel Shlomo right before, words of Elokim Chayim. Okay, so with that, I'll finish up with the chart, and I'll stick around for answers. Maybe leave one, if we go now, I think it's our final chart, woohoo. When we talked about political, right, we talked about Torah Echad in the Shulchan Aruch. When we talked about autonomy, we talked about the Netiva Torah. We said machloket's actually good because of it politically. Every person should be able to say their own opinion. When you talk about the expansion of the Palace of Torah, and this is where we come in right now, that is clearly the Yam Shel Shlomo, right? Don't worry about there being multiple opinions. Every opinion is part of Elokim Chayim. Where that was, the machloket was against the Rambam, who says, no. That's ignorance of how God wants us to act, right? We say there. Okay, and then whether practical and pragmatic, I made that a distinction between the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. Yam Shel Shlomo and Netiva Torah aren't exactly clear, but the Shulchan Aruch says we can't paskin, we don't have that right. The Rambam still said, no, we can be smart enough to paskin by ourselves. And Beseder, and with that, I'd like to just leave space for questions. But to conclude with one final comment about this discussion, I think what is really cool about this discussion is it's not like clear that there's, just as the Yam Shel Shlomo says, machloket expands our opinions, and it's not clear that there's one idea that's really right. I totally understand the Shulchan Aruch, like Shiur was saying. I'm saying that kashrut, we need political cohesion. We need everyone to be together. And I totally understand the Rambam saying we should know exactly what God wants. We should know we should get to the emet. But I also totally understand the Yam Shlomo and how cool it is that if you have your own opinion, you could be part of this world, this palace of Torah, and it's not that you're wrong. If you use your seichel and you try hard enough, even some Joe Schmo like me, who's not Rav Moshe Lichtenstein, who's going to speak to you tomorrow, could come up with an opinion in Torah Sheba'al Peh. So with that, I leave you and challenge you to come up with your own opinions in Torah Sheba'al Peh. And Hakarat Tov, great job to Beat Midrash, Ravadi. And I'll stick around for any questions.
Kobe, at what point in time did the Shulchan Aruch get its like imprimatur that this is it? Like who at what point did it become accepted across the board?
I honestly, I knew at one point, I don't know anymore. I could say one comment I can make about that is I know that it was significant when the Ramah kind of gave his gushmak and he said, I'm not going to write my own book. I'm going to write a commentary, Kilu, in addition to this book. So that was like the way that like Sfarad and Ashkenaz were united into one halacha. And that's a separate, an aside discussion. I think what you see, and the Mishnah Torah makes a comment like this in a lot of places, is what actually creates halacha.
All right, you waited what, one time?
Is when the community decides that it's halacha, right? Ashkenaz and Sfarad were together. So everyone was like, and it kind of accepted this book. So that's what Kilu creates the canon. It's actually the community that makes the canon. And the Mishnah Torah says a very similar thing about the Talmud. The reason we accepted the Talmud because all of Am Yisrael accepted the Talmud, and that's what enables the canon. So we need to be in the right historical time and place. And also historically, it's interesting to think there's a lot of parallels in Islam and Christianity of law books being written in this time. An aggregating of all the customs and whatnot, as I said before, into one cohesive unit. So it's not isolated with the Jews. Any other questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it, Shira, then Sophia.
You had mentioned that, so there's like, I forgot who said this, but you had just said at the end that like there's an opportunity for every individual to have their own opinion and for every, not necessarily so scholarly person to be able to come up with their own opinion through learning the Gemara. But there seems that there's a really huge distinction between being able to come up with your own opinion and then being able to be the own stock of your own halacha and decide what you want to do yourself.
I think that's a really good point. I think I want to make a distinction. I think if you look at halachic practice, this was just conceptual shiur. It wasn't about what we actually do in practice. I think if you look at what we actually do in halacha, there's different debates about what we do, but there seems to be you kind of have to go to the Shulchan Aruch. We can't just choose our own opinions anymore. In some ways, a more complicated discussion, but in some ways, because of what you're saying, I think the Shulchan Aruch won. And you need this cohesion. You need Torah Echad. You can't do this, right? And it's a constant debate. If you look around to all of the big discussions in halacha today, between like conservative and more liberal, it's exactly this question you're going at. Like people want to be autonomous, but we need cohesion. You can't just have anyone say what we want to say. Okay. Any other questions? Sophia, you got a question, right?
Yeah, thank you, first of all. I just wanted to build off of Shir's point. I was surprised when I saw the practical pragmatic that what wasn't coming in there was, I guess, like the role of the Amcha in this. Like, I feel like when these Hakdamot were written, this was in a time before like the lay Jewish person could pick up a halacha sefer and fully deduce these things for themselves. Like even for the Mishnah Torah, like this was for the Talmud who was like clearly learning halacha to be doing, and that wasn't for everyone. And now we live in a time when like anyone can pick up like a Pinei halacha, like you said. So I was wondering in light of that, like, I guess not necessarily to like address it exactly the same way Shira did, but where you think the role of democratization plays into a lot of this. Like, do you think that these different hakdamot were talking to like the everyday person who now can pick up a halacha sefer, or were they really talking to the post?
I'll say 3 comments. First, I don't know, and I'm not. This year, part of what was nice about this year, and it being on YouTube, is that it's about something that happened a few hundred years ago. And if you want to talk privately about different halachic positions, I would be happy to. I'm not smart enough or educated enough to fully formulate my own, just beginning that journey. But in terms of democratization of halacha and the place of the Amcha, I think 2 interesting places to look at are, again, this question of what creates the canon, as I was talking about with the Mishnah Torah before. I could show you the citation before, but the Mishnah Torah seems to be very clear that things are, and the Hakdama of the Mishnah Torah seems to be, he's saying, I can say whatever I want to. Seems to be the opinion of the Hakdama of the Mishnah Torah, but it will only really be accepted if the Am decides to accept it. Meaning, I could say what the opinion ought to be, but the authority lies in Kilu, the Am deciding it. Similar things seem to be, Chaim Soloveitchik, Professor Chaim Soloveitchik has a famous article on this that I was referencing before. He seems to say a similar thing about the Aruch HaShulchan, that it's about the culture, it's what people did. And another comment, the last comment to make, so there is room to say that. And the third comment I want to make is it's actually a big debate. You said before that the Mishnah Torah was written for the Talmid Chacham. It's a big debate who the Mishnah Torah was written for. One of the innovations of it was that it was written in easy Hebrew, very easy to read. So some people say, this is what I did in one of my classes this year, is that it was written for, the Rambam wanted people to be philosophers, and they were spending all this time learning halacha. This is a more controversial opinion. So he makes this really easy thing. This is halacha. Now go learn more in Nevuchim. So you have all of Torah, and you can now go to the philosophy, Matzah Merkaba. And one of the other ideas I think is most popular and most prevalent in our Kufa is actually, no, the Rambam was really writing this for everyone. He saw a need because of the pogroms that he was in and the dispersion of the Yahudut, that there needs to be a clear halacha that everyone could accept. And that's why he wrote it in such an innovative, organized way, which was not how people wrote before. Any other questions? Happy to stick around after. People are welcome to leave. Overseer, welcome, but yeah.
So on the Yam Shel Shlomo, I get what he's saying for like, if you have like machloket like Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, you can say like Hashem gave many different things on Har Sinai, and that makes sense. What about like all the Rishonim disagree within Rabbi Meir? Like they say, this is a din in X, this is a din in Y, the Mechayev is this, the Mechayev is that. Where does that come from?
I think that's a really good question. An article I could recommend you to that would say it better than I can is Rav Aaron Lichtenstein has an article called like Torat Emet and Torat Chesed. I'm happy to read it with you at some point, where he discussed, that's one of the innovations he says there, which is that the Rishonim are Kilu Yad Elokim. But I think to try to say it as simply as I can, I think there's different ways that you can understand that, but let's take it within the realm of the models that we put here. I think it would be helpful to look at the Netiva Torah, who says that the Torah was given to us, and by virtue of it being given to us, Hashem says, there's no right answer anymore. There's no perfect right. I know you guys can't get to that. So everything, I'm giving my stamp on everything that you say. If you use your seichel, you think hard, that's kilu my word, something like that. Another famous, Lumdish, if you don't want to read the conceptual thing of Aaron, there's a famous Atman Doraita, like an Achro, who talks about this too, and like creates some big chidushim and halacha, what you could say a bracha for, a mitzvah for, based off of that conversation. Basically, it's a complicated one. I'm happy to talk about it with you afterwards, but I'll write halacha, that's what I can say. Okay.
Kobe, I just want to thank you so much for giving the shiur. It's really like a lot of nachas. I know your parents probably, and I see Ayelet's family's here also, have a lot of nachas hearing you give a shiur, but especially from a Beit Midrash, because you can hear the tractor in the background. From the Beit Midrash, to hear you not in the actual location where you grew up in a certain sense, but being able to deliver a Torah, so it's wonderful. Also point out that your Zoom name is Ayelet, which is, so thank you to Ayelet for allowing also to share you and to participate in the shiur. And that's nice, the first opportunity to hear Torah as a married man is an exciting thing for me also to hear from you. So.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
Rabbi, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And it's very moving to be back to the Beit Midrash in some virtual thing. Hope to be back soon. I don't know how. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.